Let's next hear to a dialogue discussion with architect Prashant Sutaria in conversation with architect Gita Balakrishnan. On behalf of IIA Rajasthan, I invite architect Prashant Sutaria on the stage. Architect Prashant Sutaria is the principal architect PSA Mumbai and co-founder of the Center of Living and Planning for Tomorrow. Over the last 3 decades, he nationwide practices has won more than 15 international and 13 national awards and mentions. He is passionately engaged in the betterment of architecture. As a profession, he believes that architects can contribute towards betterment of humanity through well-designed built environment. So I would like you to join hands and welcome Mr. Architect Prashant Sutaria.
So good afternoon everybody, and such a pleasure to be here on this platform of IIA Rajasthan chapter. And the pleasure is of course more because all our friends are here, and today we are going to talk some interesting things with Gita, who is already here. So before I start anything, let me formally introduce Gita. So Gita Balakrishnan is a graduate from School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. She completed her practical training at the Center for Building Performance and Diagnostics at Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh, USA. In 2002, she founded Ethos, an initiative to bridge the gap between students and professionals from the architecture, construction, engineering, and design fraternity. Ethos will be completing 20 remarkable years in June 2022. To mark this milestone, coinciding with 75 years of independent India, she embarked upon a 1,700-kilometer long walking journey from Calcutta to New Delhi to spread awareness on how good design can play a great role in changing lives. Ethos Foundation, in collaboration with the Council of Architecture and the Indian Institute of Architects, conceptualized the Walk for Our Cause campaign, an initiative to take stories of different architects and designers which have made through their sustainable intervention in different spheres of life to the masses. Completing, this is very interesting, completing a total of 350 hours of walking through 7 states, crossing 849 cities, towns, villages. Gita crossed into Delhi via Badrapur border on Saturday 23rd. And on May 21st, she is going to cross over to the stage. So may I invite Gita onto the stage? And I think from our fraternity, she deserves a big applause. And what more can I say for her fabulous and courageous journey? I have been privileged to meet Gita at Ranchi on her way from Calcutta to Delhi, and that's the first time, in fact, I met on personal level. Otherwise, we have been sharing stage at some of the events, but it was really a pleasure to know how courageous she is going through and the kind of route that she took. I was telling her that, of course, her hometown is Calcutta, so naturally she chose Calcutta to Delhi. But I was just telling her that, it would have been much easier on her part to take the journey from a city like Mumbai to Delhi, which is a more developed part of the country, So it's really, really courageous of her to take on that journey. I also shared with her one very interesting thing which I came across whilst I was talking with Christopher Benninger. And she was aware of it, of course, but I would like to share with you that when he was about 20 or so odd years old, he took a lift from London to Mumbai.
He hitchhiked.
Yeah. So that is something which I admire him. Every time I meet him, I tell him that, Christopher, I just love you for this, like your architecture is great, but this is far more impressive for me, as a human being, I'm saying, as an architect, of course, we all admire his lovely work and his contribution to the education and other aspects of our profession. So, and then, of course, the discussion happened with Gita that, how she thought of this walk and what inspired her. And of course, what was that exact moment when she made up her mind that, no, ye walk ab mujhe karna hai. and what was the reaction of your family. So a little bit of that, and then we'll keep the journey going.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rajasthan chapter, for inviting us to this Rajasthan Architecture Festival. They already have welcomed me and been very warmly appreciative of what I did at Bharatpur. Mukulji was there, Gaurav was there, and Anu and a whole lot of others also made my walk into Rajasthan very pleasant and pleasurable. So on why and how my family, when I committed and how my family reacted to it, well, this story actually goes back 4 years. From 2017 is when I have been mulling on wanting to do this walk. I read an article in the newspapers about Priya Dutt walking with Sunil Dutt. And that was in 1987 they walked, but this article was in 2017 that I read. And since then, I've been talking to family and friends and architects and my colleagues at work as well to understand what format this walk could take, what is the kind of shape it could take. And initially I thought I could walk the different climatic zones as separate initiatives along with colleges and students and map that area, map the architecture of that area and so on. But at some point, I took to running in 2014, incidentally, at the age of 45. And I've completed 3 full marathons as well. So when I was doing those full marathons and training for it, I realized that this kind of a walk needs to be a personal journey and a solitary kind of a venture, because I could need to be responsible for myself. I didn't know if I could take on the responsibility of many others, at least in the first attempt. So that's how I decided that it has to be a walk on my own. And also we were seeing a lot of images of the migrant workers at that point, just around that time. They were walking back, and that kind of triggered something within me. And I said, I have to commit. And while they were walking for survival, I was making this whole, it was kind of ironical also that I was making this whole story around my walk and, planning something so elaborately. But I think the objective of and the intent of that walk was also to give meaning to their troubles and difficulties as well. And that's how this whole thing came about. So in July last year is when I committed. I woke up one morning and I told my husband and my mother, my kids are away. So I told them both that I am doing this walk. And I remember my husband knew that I had this intention. So it would keep coming up from time to time, so he was okay with it. My mother thought I was joking initially. She's 84 years old. Incidentally, she walked the last 3 kilometers with me as well in Delhi. So she laughed and she said, okay, I'll jog with you. She thought I was pulling one of those fast ones. And then when she saw my face and she realized that I am serious, then she kind of quietly supported me since then. Even when I had a fall in the journey as well. I don't know if some of you who are following me would know I fell in Gwalior and injured my left foot. It was pretty bad, and I was even wondering whether I would be able to walk further after that for a little while. But even then, I think the family just quietly, they did not even question once, saying, are you going ahead with it? Are you, they were not with me. They didn't know how bad it was. They just allowed me to take my decision. So they've been extremely supportive. And I think on your question, I think the intent is also not everybody gets that kind of support. But I think it's also the kind of person I have been from the day I got married. I don't think they had, or even with my parents, I don't think they had a choice. It was support that I sought and not permission. And I got that. And that's from day one. And I think you need to, and I'm saying this to, I don't see too many youngsters here, but when I talk in colleges, I tell the youngsters also, I think that equation needs to be set right in the beginning for that kind of support to happen in a relationship. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, of course. And I think your family requires a round of applause from all of us, because without their support, this kind of things become difficult,
Absolutely. So both my boys also, they when I told them on a Zoom call, and my daughter-in-law, they said that they're in for a roller coaster ride, but they just laughed and went along with me. I mean,